Beautiful piece of work. Honey Boy, you know this guy. You get your own mic, man. Shia LaBeouf, everybody. Give it up.
Really? No way. Kidding me?
Killed it, man. Amazing.
Yeah!
So, as you guys know from the credits, Shia not only stars in this one in just an amazing performance, but also wrote it. This comes deep from your heart, man. You were watching it a little bit here. How many times have you watched it? What are you getting out of it?
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times.
So let's talk about where you were at and how this kind of came to be a little bit. You have this amazing director, Alma Harrell, who did a fantastic job in it. From what I gather, this was not the plan was not, let's make a movie of my life. When did that solidify? When did that become like, I'm gonna really commit to this. I'm gonna see if this is the right way to explore these deeply personal things.
Some of it's in the movie. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Some of it's in the movie. I got arrested in Georgia and they sent me to a rehab facility, like a mental institution. And they said, you have PTSD. And I just been fired off a Spike Lee movie. And feeling pretty low. And they said, listen, you got to do this exposure therapy. And I started writing. And they had a computer I could get to once a week. I started recording all these exposure therapies, basically like role scene play. Some of it's in the movie. It's like Gestalt therapy, and you open up about dark chapters and you talk about it. Some of it's in here, some of it's not. But some of what we did in there wound up in this movie. Conversation with me and my dad, we kept going over and over and over, and I kept recording it. And once a week, I go to this computer that we had, and I transcribe it all digitally. And there's a website called Grammarly. I take all my notes and throw it on Grammarly, make it look cute, and then I would send it to Alma, and who's been a champion in my life since for a while. She's the tastiest person that I know, and every auxiliary art performance, everything. I always get the cosign from her, and she said, "Hey, this might be a narrative feature," and I thought my actor was dead because Spike Lee couldn't get me. It was just a Spike Lee joint. He couldn't get me in a Spike Lee joint. I figured, well, fuck, if Spike Lee can't do it, then you sure as shit can't do it. And so I just finished, just kept writing. It had about 70 pages. And then she said, I don't want to do it unless you play your dad. At that point, I'd already, sent it to a dude I really respect and thought could do it. And he said no, so I was sort of back against the wall. But also desperate to be an actor again. Thought, okay, maybe, and then I started thinking about it that way. And then came back when I got out after 2 months there. I hadn't seen my dad in 7 years. Went out there with the tape recorder, recorded our conversations. Had to get him to sign paperwork, told him Mel Gibson was going to play him. He's like, all right, I love Mel Gibson. Signed paperwork. I came back home and then transcribed all the audio notes and built the last scenes out of it. Me and Alma wrestled it into shape.
You guys have an amazing assembly of actors in this one. Noah Jupe, who you guys are going to see a lot more of. He's doing a lot of great work. Plays the young Otis, of course. Lucas Hedges, who really nails down the voice, the mannerisms, everything. Were these your ideas? Was it Alma? Did you know these guys?
I always thought Lucas is the best in his generation, so I sent it to him immediately. Not because he has any resemblance to me, just because he has the same spark. And he holds it in the same light, and he prioritizes it the same way. I'd also talked to Jonah about who he thought. He was like, I'll just work with Lucas, and he's really good. So then I met with Lucas and felt that. So once I had Lucas on board, then Alma went and started looking for the little boy. So she spent about a month on that, saw like 400 kids, and then whittled it down to 2. One was a classically trained actor who was like a technician, British kid. Noah, and another. And I saw this kid pacing in the back, and I thought, oh, that's a good sign. And I went outside and I said, hey, Noah, and he didn't respond to me. And then thought that was a good sign. And then went up to him, tapped him on the shoulder, said, hey, you want to run these scenes? And he was all for that. So we just ran scenes by my truck, and then Alma came out and started filming us, and we built the team that way. It was just an organic thing. And he's a jazz player. Like I would go left, he would go left. I'd go right, he'd go right. He could jump off the page. He knew all the pages. He's just a very gifted young man.
So you have a hell of a task in this film, this part that you've written for yourself. Not to mention that it's surreal. Can't begin to describe what it must have been like for you. So what? I mean, it's 21 days, by the way, guys. They shot some really
19,
quick.
Wow.
19 days. Okay, so 19 days. That's a really short time. Was it a blur? I mean, where was your headspace? Like when you left set every night, were you feeling satisfied? Were you like, this is special, this is something different, or what were you feeling?
I didn't really leave set. I was living in that motel, and they showed up and came and filmed us. It was sort of, they were visiting what we built. Noah was living in my house. Lucas was living in my house. I was living in that motel, and then the film crew would come and visit me, sort of thing. I just sort of tried to stay as close as possible, talk to my dad every night, and yeah, it was quick and dirty and beautiful and intimate and warm, and it wasn't like a professional set. It wasn't like, here's your mark, here's your light. It was like jazz. We wouldn't rehearse anything. We'd show up and the crew would play jazz with us, and we would float off the page and find something else that felt better. And we'd say, oh, we're probably gonna be in this area somewhere. And then the DP, Natasha, who's a fucking wizard, she had a wireless, like a DJ, she would wirelessly control the lights, so she had the whole motel lit, every different room lit. So we walk into this room, it'd be lit. It was like a functional motel, but built for camera. So she had functioning LED lights everywhere, like panels. And we walk into the bathroom, and the bathroom would turn on, and like we didn't have to talk to the crew, or well, not like in a mean way. We were always saying good morning. My mom was always on set. It always felt like a family, but it was like church. It was like we were in prayer. And sorry to make it sound so fucking pretentious, but it was very not pro and business. It was very something else.
Did you and Alma talk about like a feeling you wanted this movie to have? A feeling that's like, what's the watchword, the key word that like you were trying to evoke in this movie? Because I can't think of another comp for this movie exactly.
Yeah, I mean, most of the heavy shits on the page, we wanted to make sure that we kept my dad's humor. We wanted to like play with the heavy and the humor at the same time. So you got scenes where it's like it's really deep, and then you're diving into like the blood and guts of it, but you also you're throwing humor in there all constantly. So we were always trying to find the humor and pace it correctly. He could have just been a screaming shrew the whole time. I kept getting nervous that he's just like a screaming shrew, and it's like monotonous one note. So just making sure that we got tone right, and you could love the man still and feel for him.
Well, I think even from the start, the first scene, I think we see him kind of like making moves on somebody on set, right, with the chicken joke, and it's like, I bet that's a mannerism he does. He does almost like a George McFly Back to the Future kind of like sticky thing. That's your dad, I assume. So, how much? Okay, the scenes we see in this, are they vivid memories? I mean, you weren't keeping a diary, I assume, as a kid. So, how much of it is construction, and how much of it is literal, like pound for pound, word for word, feel pretty accurate to your life?
It's as accurate as I could get it in the room when I was in therapy. Then I went and read it for my dad, and he revised some things, life according to Jeff, and fixed some things. And he really only had criticism about the chicken. It's the only thing he really cared about. It's like, you're never going to get this right. You shouldn't even do it. Because he had a very close connection with his bird. And so, it's just ridiculous, but it was real. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff that he wasn't like too pent up about the rest of it. And just getting his AA story right, and make sure the shares felt like authentic, but also bullshit at the same time, and playing with that kind of stuff with him. And what else? Yeah, most of it happened. The prostitute was a bit older, but the movie. What else?
Is it tough to like nail down like the monologue in the AA meeting? Because obviously that's not something you're immediately privy to, but you're capturing.
No, I went to meetings with my dad. I would go to AA meetings like daycare center. So when my dad would give me, my dad was a treasurer at this place called the Alano Club in Santa Monica. So I've been in AA since I'm 6 years old, not even as a drunk, just as a kid of a drunk. Then became a drunk and went as a different thing. But yeah, I was always in AA, always like playing cards with the old timers. And that's why I felt comfy on set, because it just felt like an extension of AA, because it was just a bunch of old timers. And yeah, so I was always in the meetings, and I've been hearing his share since very young. And my dad likened himself as some kind of Lenny Bruce stand-up comic, so he would like rehearse his shares in the bathroom. And we were living in a very small apartment in Echo Park, and I would listen to him rehearse his shares, do his shares for himself. And he was like a real performer. That's where my dad would go hit on women too. Before we had a set to go hit on women, he'd go hit on women at the AA meetings. So he just tried to perfect his shares.
How long a time does this capture? Like, what's the time period in your? This is involving even Stevens, presumably, right?
Yeah. So the childhood portion is 1995. I was 12. That's when I first got on the show, and moved out of Echo Park into down to by the Fox Hills Mall, and started working on the show. And my dad had just gotten out of prison, and he came and started working with me. And then it's the ending bit is an amalgamation. That's the most bullshit in the whole thing. I just couldn't find an ending because I'm still in it. I couldn't find like a solution or like a happy uptick because I'm still a drunk, and I still have PTSD, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But I wanted it to be like uplifting. I didn't want to like do nil by mouth, some dark, like I wanted what Kramer versus Kramer had, which is like some kind of mysterious, like joyful bit, even more than Kramer versus Kramer, which ends quite sad. I wanted something more joyful. So I guess that's the only part that I kind of massaged into something different. But the conversation I had with my dad was just like that. Dad, I'm making a movie about you. Yeah, all right, well, make me look good, honey boy. So that's like verbatim. That's the our conversation was obviously drawn out, but yeah, that's the only bit that was fanatical.
Did friends and family think this was a good idea? Because I mean, I could imagine some people would be like, "This is not the time to gaze inward in this way and expose it to the whole world."
I didn't tell anybody really. I just started working on it. And my team knew because Mel Gibson started. I really sent it to him because he's always been a champion in my life. Like an older OG that I've always looked up to as an actor, and also walked through the mud, and just a guy I've always. He's a full-blown fuck up, but he'll tell you that. But he's also somebody that when I was in a crisis mode, he was holding his head high, bearded, walking through the Academy Awards, and I thought, fucking, that's like a hero to me, because I couldn't look around in my immediate generation and be like, oh yeah, him. I had nobody like that, but he gave me hope as an artist because he was still walking tall, even though heavy load to carry, and an alcoholic. So yeah, I sent it to him, and then he started telling other people that the script was pretty good, and then everybody, once he said it, everybody was like, whoa, I hear it's pretty good, and he helped us get funding, he helped us get the money, like a silent angel. Yeah, I didn't tell anybody in my family because nobody was really talking to me. My mom basically put me on timeout. It's the first time she was ever like, fuck off. Because the therapist told her to do that. My mom's been an enabler my whole life. She doesn't know how to be a heavy hand in my life because it's just been me and her for a big chunk. My dad wasn't really talking to me. My team basically said game over. I joined the Peace Corps. I wasn't going to go be an actor, so they all thought I was on some like permanent hiatus. So I wasn't really sending it to anybody. I sent it to Mel. And I sent it to Alma, and that was it.
You alluded to this in the beginning, that you talked about Mel, like in terms of playing the part, first day on set, you're in that wardrobe, you look at yourself in the mirror, are you thinking, what the fuck have I got myself into, or this was a good choice, or like, I mean, you're in it, and that's a head trip, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I was just loving on that boy a lot. We were just very connected, me and him, and just sort of, Lucas had already filmed a huge chunk of his scenes, and he's so fucking good, so the barometer was already very high. He filmed all his stuff in a week, and all his stuff is really really heavy, and they shot that fast, and he's shooting like 11-page days with heavy lifting, so the crew was already pretty primed for what the set was going to be like by the time Lucas left. And when I got there, it was like we just kept going with what was already built, which was a very warm, loving environment where all the actors had agency and had ownership, and Alma was a boss. She was in charge, and I just sort of stayed quiet until you got to flip the switch. And then when it was time to flip the switch, everybody on the crew was very respectful and loving. And it was a bunch of people that I had grown up with. So a lot of crew members from Transformers or even Stevens or people that knew my dad were there. So it felt like making a movie with like your family for real. And a lot of the people who were new there came onto the project because they were children of alcoholics. So it just felt like, okay, this is a shared secret. We all have the same kind of shit. We're all from this generational trauma. And there was no like, hey, what'd you think of the football game last night? Or what'd you get your kid for Christmas? None of that. Yeah, so it was just very loving and respectful and connected.
Did the relationship with Noah change from before filming to during filming? Because I mean, obviously the relationship is a beautiful one, but there's also some friction there, to say the least. So what's it like?
We had quiet days. We had days where I felt very jealous, you know, where he would just be, genuinely, he would just be so fucking good, and I would be, you know, just pacing back and forth like, this fucking kid's gonna steal this whole movie. And I felt very close to what my dad and me had. So I leaned into that, you know, trying to be sweet to the boy, but also like be into it. And he's such a good actor. He knew what was going on. He could kind of distance himself from it. And it's not like method, like some cornball shit, but just trying to like touch a feeling and like lean into something real hard and, you know, play make-believe to the umpteenth degree. And, you know, it's cops and robbers, but like fully dressed and fully robbing. And he was all for it. And I was very close to his parents, and they're also actors. So everybody was just sort of waiting for the butterfly to land and believing in the mystical and treating it very spiritual. Everybody was really connected. Yeah.
Did you know you had this when you wrapped, that it was going to turn out this well? I mean, you know, it seems like a lot can be done to the edit. You never know. Since it debuted at Sundance, obviously audiences are really connecting to this in a huge, profound way. When did you realize it worked?
Probably at Sundance, probably sitting with my mom at Sundance. She edited it on her own. I went off to go do a whole nother thing. So I was gone pretty quickly. I had about 2 days off before I started hanging out with Ayers a lot. And at that point, like my whole life switched. I went from one thing to a whole nother thing, and she had room. We didn't have nobody checking for us. It wasn't like we had a studio that's like, hey, we got to get this out by da 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 da. It wasn't none of that. And we
lunchboxes.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. And we were such a small movie, she just had total freedom. So when I got back from the Ayers thing, I called her and said, hey, what's going on? She's like, give me another week. Another couple weeks passed, and then she said, hey, come in, we're gonna do some ADR. And I saw it there for the first time. You know, I knew it would be, Alma is a real one.
It must surprise you to see. I mean, has to go beyond your wildest dreams in terms of how audiences are reacting, critics and audiences. Can you separate yourself from the work and appreciate it as a piece of art, or is it always going to be just so intrinsically connected to you that's going to be hard to see it in that way, you think?
It's nice to take ownership over your own story. It's nice to have people come up to you in airports like, hey man, I'm bipolar and I'm a fuck up and you give me hope. It's nice for other children of alcoholics to feel like, oh, okay, well, there's a route. It's nice to make work that moves people. I know it's effective. It's nice to like, this morning, you know, it's been very nice to show it. I'm not getting too lost in the sauce because I've had the rug pulled, you know. I've lost my ability to be able to do this craft, so I'm treating it very tentative in terms of how much I embrace all the optimism. But yeah, it's much better than being in a shit movie, sure.
But you can see it one-to-one in people's faces when you talk to them, whether it's like, you know, a publicist sending you a report is one thing, but you see it interpersonally, which means something.
I guess I feel it from my team, like all the people who were like, hey, join the Peace Corps are now, you know, like maybe, yeah, they're pretty like joyful, positive, and they sound different on the phone, and you can feel that for sure. So I guess it's cool to, you know, you've had a team riding with you for 20 years, and you know, it's been a rough road to be on my team. So it's nice for the pressure valve to be released a little bit, and they can kind of, you know, walk with their head in a different position than it's been. You know, it's been quite a burden to be on my squad for a while, so it's nice to just be on a winning team for a week.
More than a week. It's yeah. I mean, look. I think anybody that sees this film or sees this guy in conversation like tonight or anything, you really see into his heart and how earnest you are. Not truly, and it's a beautiful piece of work, man. You should be very proud. Give it up for Shia LaBeouf.